What's going on, YouTube? This is Jim with the Dishonored 2 review for you guys. First and foremost, the first half of this video is spoiler free, so if you do not want to know anything about the game, fear not, you're in a safe place. I will let you know when I get to the good stuff. Secondly, if you guys did not get a chance to listen to BK's Bullets for Comic Timing, the greatest podcast in all the land, I highly encourage you to do so. There's a link in the description box below. During that podcast, Brent and I went through and named all our favorite games of 2016. If you did listen, you know that I picked Dishonored 2 as my second favorite game of 2016. So you know my review is going to be glowing. Let's get into the spoiler-free portion. Whether you are a complete badass, whether you are a bandit who likes to sneak around and slew about in the shadows, this game has something for you. You can play as either Emily or Corvo, and they both have a slew of powers for you to use if you so choose to do so. I know a lot of people were in the first Dishonored wanted to play powerless. There is a mode where you can reject the outsider's gift and play just as a dude or a girl if you so desire. Of course I took the powers, and of course I was Corvo, the high chaos slaughtering ruthless man. You took my daughter, you're gonna die. There are a ton of powers that were available in the game. There were a lot of bone charms that were hidden around all of the levels for you to collect with runes for you to power up your character. There were blueprints that you could take to the black market shop as you slowly worked your way through all of these areas and stumbled across blueprints that gave you more bullet capacity, or when you ran your boots didn't make as much noise, or you could fall with more damage. There's all these different types of upgrades you could get to your character. Plus, when you add in the bone charm system, some of which were black bone charms, which had a very, very good reward, but also something negative to them. So maybe you got a larger health pool, but it drained your mana first, or something like that. You really could customize your character. I chose to be full-on combat Corvo, and I loved it. The combat in this game is so fluid. You have the parry, you have the thrust attack, you have your different types of guns, you have your different, I'm not sorry, you only have one gun, but different types of, is it different types of ammo on the gun? Yeah, you can actually upgrade the gun, but I was thinking more of the crossbow, where you can upgrade like sleeping darts, and you could have explosive darts, spring razors. There were a slew of weapons for you to use to which dispose of your enemies. And towards the end, when I upgraded the ability to break through doors with my sword, I wasn't even sneaking around. I was just kicking the door in and murdering every single guard who was loyal to Delilah, because I'm evil Corvo, and that's just the way I play. But if you want to be stealthy, you could do that too. My second playthrough, I will play with Emily, and I will be much more stealthy. You can sneak around a lot. You can possess rats to kind of move around without guards seeing you. You could slow down time. You can upgrade your blink. The world is your oyster. There's tons of customization, and you're going to need it because the world is a lot of fun. It's not a true open world in the sense that you could go anywhere you want, but there's plenty to do within the world, and the world does revolve around a couple hallways and corridors, or larger castles, or larger set pieces, with a plethora of ways to sneak in, whether you want to sneak in through the sewers, whether you want to try to distract a guard, or come in through the roof. The world, it's up to you to kind of determine how to do that. And more than that, there are lots of clues and lore in the world for you to find out what's going on around you, to find out, how are people living their lives, and how can you intersect. Maybe there are places where you can help people out, and in exchange they'll give you a reward or a key to get in. But the game doesn't tell you that. That's part of the fun, is you having to go off and explore on your own, and go off and really just enjoy the world and dive in and really enjoy the lore and the story that they're telling you. Because very similar to Skyrim, each little area, just like Skyrim had every little dungeon was kind of its own self-contained story, this game does the exact same thing. So each world and each part of the world that you visit is very different than the others, and there are different things going on, whether it's two warring factions with one another, or a black market that is corrupt, and they're stealing people, human trafficking, whatever. It's kind of up to you, and if you want to see all that, it's there for you. If you just want to stick to the main revenge story against Delilah, you could do that too. So both opportunities are there for you, and that's what makes the game have so much replayability and so much fun, that when you add in the great level design and the character customization and your mindset when playing, you really can shape the experience. And whether you play in low chaos or high chaos, again, I was in high chaos, there is different dialogue. The NPCs will act differently to you. As a matter of fact, when I got to the end, I had a chance to murder the NPCs because I felt they were in my way. That's how ruthless my game had become. Now, if you play differently, maybe it'll be a different story for you. So, if you haven't had a chance to play Dishonored, I highly recommend it. At this point, I'm going to jump over to the spoiler-free, jump away from the spoiler-free section, and we're going to jump into spoilers. I'm going to put up a fancy bumper or something magical happening right now, and let's talk a few things about the spoilers. I did not like that ending at all. Again, I was playing as Corvo the Black. That's actually what my guy's name was at the very end. And self-named Corvo the Black. Delilah's downfall wasn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. I did actually choose to manipulate the runes to trap her in the painted world, but it didn't really seem as if she was forced there against her will. She kind of willingly went. And then it was just a static image on the wall. I think they missed a really big opportunity to maybe have her alive in there, somehow like beating on the painting, trying to break out. But it didn't really feel like much of a punishment. You know, the reason I chose to trap her there as opposed to kill her was, in my mind, that was more of a punishment. I wanted her to suffer for all time for what she had done to my family. And I didn't really get that sense of satisfaction, so I think that was a major downfall on the game's part. However, the epilogue with seeing what happened to Sokolov and seeing that Billy Lurk returns, which was really cool. By the way, how cool is it that Farewell Dowd is, you rearrange the letters and it's the Dreadful Whale. I thought that was really, really neat little touch, and that just goes into some of the lore and excitement that is in the game. Anyways, I really didn't appreciate the ending as much. I did like the epilogue, and that was something that did kind of offset my experience, but everything else was so great that I still really enjoyed the game. The other thing I really liked was the level where you go into Stilton's Manor, and you have an opportunity to knock him unconscious before he sees the seance that turned Delilah into what she has become. And then you go back in the present day and everything is normal. He's a normal guy. He's a humanitarian. The Dust District isn't nearly as bad as we thought it was. What great level design. I had murdered most people by the time I got through to this, but my understanding is he actually replaces some of the NPCs that help you out on the Dreadful Whale. He becomes a mission giver in a sense, and I think that is an amazing touch. He actually appeared in my game, and he was he driving the boat? He might not have been driving the boat when the mission ended, but he was definitely on the Dreadful Whale walking around like, hey, how's it going? You know, great to help out Corvo, and I thought that was really, really cool. So those are the two things that really stuck out to me in terms of overall just, you know, hits and misses, I guess. I really like the level design, as I mentioned before. I love how many different ways you can sneak through things. I usually took the brute force way, but there were a lot of opportunities in which you could really kind of dive through the world and make it your own. And I put this point in the spoiler section only because there's a couple that really stood out to me. Going back again to the level where you're in the manor and you had to use the mirror to beam in and out of the two realities, the present day and the past day. I thought that was so cool how certain parts of the castle were dilapidated, and yet you could use the mirror to beam into places that you couldn't have been before in the present day that were still, you know, good in the past. I thought that was one of the greatest levels. And then the Clockwork Manor, going through and finding Jinder and going the soldiers that he had, and how the whole level you could hit a lever and the whole house reconfigured itself, and kind of sneaking through the woodwork almost reminded me of Portal. If you remember in Portal at the end when you break away and you break outside the simulation and you're like sneaking through the behind the, you know, network of GLaDOS, that kind of thing. You can see all the wiring and everything. I really felt that with the level, the Clockwork Manor level, because you could really sneak through and see things maybe you weren't supposed to see, but you knew you were. It wasn't like you broke the game, but just really put you in that element. And I think those two levels really stand out for how great the level design was in this game and how good of a job they did at telling a story and conveying a world to it. So those are my spoiler thoughts on Dishonored. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you guys thought about Dishonored 2. I absolutely love the game, and if you haven't had a chance to play it and you're still watching this, sorry I spoiled it for you, but I did warn you. But more than that, you really deserve it to yourself to get out there and experience this game firsthand and do a different playthrough than I did. Play with Emily and be neutral, or try to sneak around. There's a lot of replayability here, and I think once you dive into the mechanics and you really start to understand how the game works and why the game works, I think you're going to be hooked and you're going to want to replay it through a few times. I know I definitely do. That's all I got for now. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.